Hello everybody and welcome to the TA Leadership League Twangout. To be innovative and proactive, a staggering number of companies have started to develop and implement social media as a tool within their overall sourcing and talent acquisition strategy. And as of you all know, our today's Twangout on social hiring, think like a marketeer, act like a hunter, a People Matters initiative in association with Aon Hewitt and Cornerstone on Demand is going to focus on the same topic. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope once we finish this session, you will have a lot of insight to take back with you. I am Akanksha from People Matters and will share with you the brief about the TA League, and then we will move straight to the session. This is the second edition to the TA Leadership League. Under this umbrella, we bring before you different set of activities like half-days conclave, 30-minute master classes, Twangout sessions like this one, annual full-day conferences, TA awards for the best of the best practices across industries, monthly newsletters with updates on latest trends. This will give us opportunity to engage with recruitment community and ensure that each of us learns, shares and grows. So be a part of this league. This session would have not been possible without the help of our partners, Aon Hewitt, a global leader in human resource solutions with over 30,000 professionals in 19 countries, serving more than 20,000 clients worldwide, and Cornerstone on Demand, a global leader of cloud-based talent management software solutions. As we move on to our session, I would like to introduce you to our host for today's Twangout session, Deepa Chandrasekhar, Process Head, Talent Acquisition at ING Vysya Bank. She heads the talent acquisition process at ING Vysya, has been the winner of Young HR Leaders Are You in the List Awards 2013. Welcome, Deepa.
Thank you. Thanks, Akansha.
Our guest for the TA Leadership League Twangout today is a strategic thinker and a proven problem solver with an in-depth understanding of the dynamic role that talent acquisition must play in the 21st century workforce. Join me in welcoming Mr. Sarang Brahme. Welcome, Sarang, to the session today.
Hey, thanks Akanksha, thanks Deepa. Look forward to have a good session with you.
Yeah, so Sarang Brahme, as all you know, is a global head social recruiting Capgemini, has over a decade of experience in talent acquisition with a specialization in sourcing and social recruiting as his areas of passion. He has a strong experience in global as well as India hiring processes. In his current role, he works with global HR and marketing teams to enhance talent sourcing, branding, and engagement through use of digital channels. It's a pleasure to have you. Welcome to Sarang today, and we look forward to a great learning with you. So before I request Deepa to take over from here, let me remind you that you can follow the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag #TALeague. Please share your comments, posts, and questions so Deepa can take up for Sarang through the session live. For those not on Twitter yet, you can inbox my colleague your question at pranav.gupta@peoplematters.in, while we encourage all of you to come on Twitter and join the conversation. We have exciting giveaways for all of you today too. 1-year print plus digital subscription of People Matters for the most active Twitter listeners, so keep tweeting. With this, without being between you and Sarang, I request Deepa to take over from here and start this super exciting session. So are we ready to start, Deepa?
Absolutely, Akanksha, and I think considering that this is Twangout on social hiring, social media hiring, our listeners should be very active on Twitter and Facebook and whichever other channel, that social media channel that you have, to make this a big success. So Sarang, we're absolutely delighted to have you here, and our listeners will hashtag their questions to TA League, and I will on their behalf ask you the questions. But to kind of kick off this whole session, I want to kind of ask you the question that's top most on my mind. In terms of this whole hunter and farmer, what exactly does that topic mean? I kind of got a bit surprised. So what does it mean to be a hunter and a farmer, and what does that have to do with social media hiring?
Okay, great. Uh, yeah, so for long, HR and recruitment has been related to more of an administration, support function. I wanted to give listener a different perspective today, and that's something I strongly believe. Um, Today, with the whole talent war and Gen Y, Gen X, whatever things that we talk, and challenges that we have in talent segment is really ask a recruiter to think differently. It's no more old ways of hiring. You put a job and get candidates into your laps. You just have to screen them, give a hire to the best of the candidate. Today you really have to think like a marketeer or like a salesperson, and I'll give you some perspective on that. um, so in order to really find the right people, attract the right people, it's not just about putting a job ad, but it's really more about creating that value proposition for them, reaching out to them with right messages. Are you able to create company's brand and image in such a way that people who may or may not be actively looking out for a change would see you as a potential company that they can build their careers on? It's not about just finding those people who are actively looking, but it's also about reaching out to the larger talent segment. Yeah, so today only around 30 to 40% of people are around that, some plus and minus, would probably looking out for a change. But if even if you go as vanilla technologies like Java, the companies are struggling to find people, because it's not that there are not enough Java developers out there in the market, but you're not able to find right candidates. So one, as a recruiter, you have to keep your marketing cap on to see whether I'm able to create that value, I'm able to attract right talent which can match to my company's requirements, whether I'm able to find right people who should be able to develop their careers with me. Is that a right marriage between company and candidates? Am I able to showcase them, give them a glass door to look at my company, kind of people, kind of opportunities, and really thinking of marketing, like a marketeer, to attract right talent. So it goes like like a typical sales cycle. As a marketing department creates that excitement within the market, and then sales guys actually do the pitching, hunting, and selling. So as a salesperson, you should also able to find out those right people, hunt those right people. It's what we call is purple squirrel, uh, and able to locate those guys, and should be able to use social media to screen them. You'd be able to see what kind of activities that they have social. You'd be able to reach out to those guys, use your brand to attract and engage them, and make a successful hire. And that's what actually, there's a lot of saying that recruitment is very much like sales, where you have to create a new lead, pitch to him, and then actually close the deal. Very similar to what we do at recruitment function. So that's what I wanted to kind of give a perspective, and meant by as a recruiter we have to look at it as a marketeer and sales, and less of an administration or support kind of a function.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Sarang, because in my role in talent acquisition as well, I definitely see this part of HR as a very sales kind of a function, a marketing slash sales function, where we have to, like you rightly said, put together the value proposition for why should the employee actually consider working candidate work, choose to work with us, and then your whole hunter concept as well in terms of social media hiring space, actually wooing the candidate, get them on board. And ask you, in terms of this whole social media hiring, what according to you are the 2 or 3 foundational pillars that kind of hold this concept together, and how has it progressed and reached the kind of importance it has
Yeah,
now?
so if we look at social recruiting, I think HR community has definitely
Yeah,
moved ahead. From thinking like should we go there to now how do we do it. So compared to 2 years back, I definitely see a lot of movement in a lot of companies who are using social media for various activities. But I think we need to look at social from a holistic and 360-degree perspective. Social media is not just posting jobs on Facebook. Social media is not just about posting some pictures, doing some contests, or having some one webinar or stuff like that. You really have to look at social recruiting in terms of what you're gonna do, or how you're gonna engage your audience. So one I would say is definitely an employer branding concept. If you're not doing branding using social media, you are definitely underutilizing it. Social media gives you that power today, and if you really look at it's because of social media the whole concept of employer branding has taken a rebirth. I mean, give me an example where 5 or 6 years back we used to talk about employer branding very less, but it's because of social hiring. The whole concept of employer branding has kind of taken a new spin altogether, because you get a medium where you can reach to mass level and give them a perspective of this
absolutely.
is what we are. Yeah, this is what we do, and come and be part of us. So one is employer branding. Secondly is about engagement. A lot of time we kind of confuse between branding and engagement while they go hand in hand. But branding is like we are putting our image, what kind of company we are. But then you have to take one step ahead and actually engage them into your brand. So how do you do that? There are various aspects. You 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 make connection with them at the end of the day. So one thing that I wanted to actually add to the entire tagline was, think like a marketer, act like a hunter, but be human. Because at the end of the day, it's a human that you are connecting with. It's a human that you're talking about. Engagement is, you talk to them, you ask them how do you like to work with us, what are their aspirations, and really engage them in a dialogue which they understand. It's simple things like, I'll give the example of what HCL did. It was the coolest interview ever, where they created a dialogue between their audience and HCL as a company, and really driven that to social. Also, at Capgemini we did Tech Challenge, which was again an engagement with our target audience. Make them stick with you. There has to be dialogue. There has to be conversation. Uh, we created a challenge for technical associates to kind of give them a difficulty levels. They clear 1 level, 2 level, 3 level, and solve these kind of real time challenges. So that's a connection and engagement that needs to be there. So that's the second point. And thirdly, I would talk about sourcing. Then yes, how do you use things like LinkedIn to find candidates? How do you use Twitter? How do you use Facebook, or just plain simple Google? Because of social media, today you have every person, lot of people who are leaving their footprints onto social, which you can definitely trap to using Google. There are various advanced Boolean sourcing functionalities. There are different tools like Antelope, Talent Bean, Social CV, which you can search candidates and their social footprints. Definitely use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the primary kind of professional networking area where you can search candidates. But while you're searching and talking these candidates, if you're not doing employer branding and engagement, then it's a half-hearted effort. You're just finding candidate and using them as but those candidates have no connection, no engagement with you, so there's very little chance that you're gonna do too much of will have too much of hiring success. So that's why I think these three pillars or these three topics would need to look at as a 360-degree
Hmm.
view rather than just looking at one option in silo.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant summary, Sarang. So what you're saying, the three pillars are: one is the brand. So building the right employer brand is the number one first step. Number two is what you're talking about, engagement. So actually putting together a detailed plan on how you engage across all of these social media platforms. And number three is the sourcing, actually kind of reaping benefits from building the brand and the engagement. So I think that's a brilliant three-pillar concept in terms of how your whole social media strategy needs to kind of rest on. But tell me, I mean, you talked about some Boolean stuff and all of that. Do you have to kind of be an engineer to be in social media hiring? Do you need to understand technology? What do you think are the competencies for a social media recruitment team?
No, you don't
Because
really need to be
I'm
an engineer.
not very good
I'm
at
not,
it. I'm not tech savvy, Sarang. So will you hire someone like me?
Uh, so it's really not about us, and it's not really about engineer. If I love to hire you, that's a different case.
Okay, we catch
And
up offline. All right.
but exactly. But it's really not about being a tech nerd kind of thing. You really have to
Okay.
use power of social as a functional user, and because at the end of day, so it's really not about tools. It's really about how do you use those tools, how do you use power of those tools, and as a human being, and that's the last thing in terms of being human. Are you able to uh, uh, use the power of tools to reach, engage, and brand these guys? So in terms of competencies, what I think is you know uh, time has come where recruiters have to become smart recruiters and not just HRs, or not just someone who just put a job or do some keyword searches on job portals and find these guys. One, as I said, you really have to put a marketeer hat on. Every recruiter today needs to think about why the person whom I'm talking over the phone should be interested in my company beyond very obvious things like salary. Today's salary has become less of a competitive advantage because obvious for the cost pressure every company is going through. So are you giving them enough reasons to join my company beyond salary? So are you creating that, again, same value proposition? Are you putting your company's brand in the right manner? Are you using your own social media channels to create that influence that your company has through your own social media channels? Are you a brand champ? So one is definitely having to have some marketing kind of skills. Secondly, analytics is, I think, is really important, and again, one of the skills that I'm not sure everyone has, as in recruitment community, has found. Power to find out what's available in the market, what kind of talent that you have beyond just job portals, and give a sense to your hiring community that
Akanksha, can you hear Sarang?
No, I can't. I think
data.
is it better?
Hello,
Yes, Sarang, we can hear
Sarang?
you.
Deepa.
Yes, yes, Sarang. Now it's better.
Yeah, can you hear me
Sarang,
now?
can you hear us?
Hello.
Yes,
Hello?
yes. Go ahead.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Go ahead.
Yeah, we can. Go
Now,
ahead.
Okay, okay. As I was saying, it's really important to look at analytics as a skill, and how can you leverage social
I think that was a great point, Akanksha,
able to
Sarang was
find
making
on
in terms
job
of
portals.
analytics. Can you hear him though?
If you put your skill in.
I think we're just losing his voice in between.
So, meanwhile, I'd request, I'm seeing a lot of action on Twitter, which is very nice in terms of a lot of questions. So, moment we get Sarang back, I'm going to kind of launch into some of these questions. I think Ankit Kulati had a good question, Varun as well, very interesting. And there's Anish Kohli as well. So, three or four really good questions that I'd like to quickly ask Sarang the moment I can hear him. So,
Hello.
Akanksha, any? Yes, okay, you're back. So, Sarang, we have some questions from the readers for you. Can you hear me? From the listeners, actually.
I think we are not getting his voice.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, we'll fix it. Deepa, you wanna mention anything specific which you come to your top of your
So,
mind
I
in terms
think
of the
some of the
competencies?
So, I mean, we kind of started using social media in our organization about maybe 3 years back. And I think what has been very different from us from a hiring perspective is the ability to reach out to these, what we call as passive candidates. So while what Sarang said is absolutely right in terms of first the whole aspect of building your brand on the social media site. So whether it was Facebook or LinkedIn, and it's not just you as a employer brand alone. So there has to be a collective effort with your marketing team or product team or whomever you work with in terms of putting together a comprehensive organization kind of brand on. You have to have a united kind of strategy when you go into social media. So whether it's your product or your HR or marketing, it's a joint effort when you put together that organization brand. So that was one thing that we did. The second thing was like Sarang said in terms of engagement. Some a little bit of thought process on that. For example, one of the new things we did this year was a social media hiring contest on campus. So using social media as a platform, we kind of reached out to some of our B school campuses and got them to put together a case study. And the whole voting of the best case study happened on Facebook. So, and basis the number of likes and the comments on their case studies, students were shortlisted and then called in for a pre-placement interview and taken forward. So that's how we kind of use social media to leverage our brand on campus. So that whole engagement bit, not just using it to hire, but actually using it to engage, helped us a lot. And the third bit, what Sarang mentioned in terms of sourcing. So that is, I think, definitely the most important pillar. While you do the branding and the actual engagement on social media, the sourcing is very important when you actually reach out to individual candidates and close the loop with them, whether they're selected or not for that particular role. Because social media is so powerful, you know. I mean, if one candidate has a bad experience, we pretty much hear a lot about it through the media. So actually closing the loop with every single candidate, making sure that individual candidate experience is worth talking about, is that whole sourcing experience as well. So that is some, in a short way, how we've actually gone about and used social media here at ING Vaishya. And I must say, it has given us a lot of results, especially in niche hiring, senior level leadership hiring. It doesn't really work for your, since I come from a frontline retail sales driven organization, it doesn't really work for those frontline roles, but it's helped us a lot with our leadership and niche hiring. So,
I
yeah, I think
totally
a
agree with you,
multi-pronged
Deepa.
approach has helped us a lot.
Yeah, so I think nowadays social media is becoming as a powerful tool which companies are using now to, we have a active presence in the social media universe, you say. I was reading the article another day and it was showing the data of, 85% people use in particular country, the social media. And out of the study says that, around out of 85% people who want companies to be present in social media, and they want to actively interact with the companies, which around 34% people says that, they want to actively interact with companies and be part of in the campaign which you just mentioned, like tech challenge, which Saran mentioned, and 51% want companies to interact with them as maybe needed by request, or maybe upon the different portal which we have. So I think that's a data itself speak for it. So it's it's a tool which company already identifying using for the recruitment.
Yeah, yeah, yes, Akanksha. So, I agree. I mean, looking at that data, I mean, you can just kind of get lost in all of this data in terms of how many people below the age of 30 are on social media, and there's a whole lot of data out there. But I always stop and think of it as myself, right? When I was looking for jobs, or when any candidate, any of us are called for an interview, what's the first thing we do? We kind of Google the company name, right? That's the
Yeah,
first step. Google the company name. You want to see what
true.
people have to say about them. You want to see what they have to say on LinkedIn. Are they on Facebook? Can I like them? Can I follow? So I think it's all about putting ourselves. That's kind of become like the first instinct now for a lot of us. You know, the first instinct is you want to know as much as possible about that organization. You want to know if you have any friends who are working there. You want to know what does Glassdoor have to say about them. You know, are employees happy working there? So the social media has kind of opened up and given so much of exposure to candidates even before joining. So they, more than us having to tell them about the organization, you know, I've conducted interviews of people, and you know, during the interview they say, you know, you worked with you know, so and so in your previous organization, and he's a good friend of mine. You know, so they themselves use that opportunity to kind of draw those connections and make the conversation more meaningful. So I've sat through numerous interviews like that with candidates when they have gone through my LinkedIn profile or have connected with me on other social media platform and kind of know who my connections are and use that to build the conversation. So social media is definitely changing the face of how you know, interviews are conducted, what candidates want to do and research on before they come for an interview. But I must say there is also a lot of caution for organizations because of this. One is you are so public now, right? I mean, your employees are vocal. They are able to kind of express what's going well and what's not, and so much so for the candidate. And we've had a lot of experience on Facebook and stuff like that, and candidates kind of reach out and tell us that it's not happening well. And that at times is something we have to, I'm not saying manage it, but at times be cautious about how, and have a game plan on how you're going to handle negative feedback as well. So there are some questions coming in. Any luck on Sarang?
He's just
Is he
trying to
off
log in
social
again.
media or
No, he's just trying to log in again.
okay,
So I
all
think
right.
meanwhile we continue the conversation. I'll just ask you, Deepa, to if you have any particular example in ING or with your previous company that which integrates social media with your recruiting cycle.
Yes, and I touched upon it briefly. So what we have done last year, and this was a concept that we worked on a couple of years earlier as well, is we've used social media very extensively for our campus hiring. So what we realized is, and the problem statement is, when you, because there's so many campuses, now how do I make sure I get the best talent? What frequently happens is we go into a campus and we pick the best from that one campus. But but my belief is, as a recruitment person, is that I want to get the best from across campuses. I don't want to limit myself to one campus. Problem statement number one. Problem statement number two is, for a fresher, an interview is not often the best way of hiring, right? So what else can I do? Problem statement number three is, very often for a fresher, the classmates are the best references. So I want to know from the classmates what they think of that candidate. All right. So with these three problem statements in mind, we said we need to kind of create an opportunity for us to look at talent across campuses. We want to look at classmate feedback and batchmate feedback about the individual candidates as well. So that's when we launched a program, which was a simple case study program. So we had our said you can put together your impressions of this case, and then kind of come on to Facebook, and we had pictures and the synopsis of the shortlisted cases up there, and we got people to like and give comments about each one of them. So that helped us get very candid feedback about the case study, and about peer feedback, and from almost like some 2-3 thousand kind of case study entries that we got, we zeroed it down to about 9 to 10 hires. And for me, the great high out of this exercise was that we looked at across campuses to get the best talent using peer feedback. So that was a big use of social media that we were kind of able to integrate into the overall hiring piece for us. And especially when you're catering to a younger generation, the so-called Gen X or Gen Y, I've lost track of what alphabet, but to the 20s, the young 20s, I think a recruitment strategy without social media embedded in it is not something that's going to work. They will want to approach the organization, engage with the organization, kind of understand who's working there, what are your, the whole gamification bit of it before actually joining is very critical to them.
Thanks, very well put in, Deepa. I think while we wait Sarang to join in for the session again, so we just dropped him for the session. So while we wait for him to join in,
I'd like to kind of take the question that Varun Arora has asked, and I think that's a brilliant question, in terms of what specific social media service would you use, would you believe is the best source to hire high potential talents? And I think that's a great question, because very often, we kind of get stuck and with a limited constrained budget, do we subscribe to LinkedIn? Do we get a Facebook app? Some of these job sites as well are kind of using that social media concept. Which is, if I had limited budgets, which would I choose and why? And I think the answer there is, what is the kind of profile you're trying to fill? What is your hiring that you're trying to do through this? So if at all, that purely depends on that. Now, if you're looking for freshers, or if you're looking for just out of college, especially engineering and all of that, then a lot of Facebook and Facebook apps help there. But if you're looking for leadership and senior level hiring, or mid and senior level hiring, people who have jumped 2-3 jobs, that's when kind of LinkedIn comes in. Using LinkedIn for freshers hasn't really worked for us personally. But I think LinkedIn, when you use it for senior level hiring, especially leadership, I wouldn't see as much, but mid level hiring, people who have moved 2-3 jobs, about 10-15 years experience, I think that's the best time to kind of pick up and use LinkedIn. So that would be my kind of simple advice to Varun. Yes,
Thanks, Deepa, for answering the question. Very well put. And I think Sarang is just joining for the session, so because audience is very excited to hear his views on the topic. He's just trying to log in, and soon we'll have him online with us.
Sure.
So meanwhile, you wanna answer the another question which we received from Sarat, Deepa. So Sarat Kumar is asking that competencies for the social media recruiter. Do you need to be an engineer? Learn how to use the power of the tool. So I think Sarang mentioned about that, and you had a humor there. So anything specific you want to mention in this bit?
So do I need to be an engineer to use social media hiring? I use social media hiring extensively, and I'm not an engineer. So that's the first answer to the question. I think the main competency for social media hiring is you have to be passionate and believe in the source. So recently we hired a recruiter into our team, and for me the most important thing to handle our social media hiring channel, to me the most important thing when we hired him and what I looked for in him was he active on social media himself. And he is someone who connected with me through LinkedIn and kind of made his pitch for the job. So that in itself was one big important point. He believed in that channel. He kind of had used it for his own job opportunities. So for me, that was number one. Number two is while not an engineer, I think being a little tech savvy is very important. So kind of understanding how this whole concept works. What are the new apps in the market? How do we use some of these channels? So actual understanding of some of these channels is extremely important. But that for me is secondary still, because all of this can be picked up like I have myself. But the first and the most important competency to me would be that someone who believes in this channel and who uses it themselves extensively. But no, you don't have to be an engineer.
Great. So Deepa, I'll ask you another question, which we obviously you're a talent acquisition professional. So how can you track and measure success metrics if you have a social hiring plan within your company? So any specific example, any experience sharing which you wanna do on this bit?
Yes. Sorry, repeat the question again. I didn't get it.
I was just asking that how can we track and measure success metrics? Anything specific which you had in ING which you wanna share?
So definitely, I mean, any metrics are absolutely very important in hiring, because like we discussed earlier, it's pretty much a sales slash marketing kind of a role, so recruitment per se has to have metrics, and I mean, that's a completely different discussion in itself. But when it comes to social media, it's a little more tricky, because like Sarang mentioned, the 3 pillars, there's a whole lot of investment that will go into brand building on social media. So you kind of invest in that channel in terms of building the brand. Number 2 is you invest a lot in engagement. Use social media to kind of engage with prospective candidates. So both of these are very, very difficult to quantify, and I'll be interested to hear if there are organizations who are able to kind of quantify this. But of course, the most easiest to quantify are your lag indicators in terms of your cost to hire, your time to hire, and stuff like that. But for me, what has really worked for us and built the pitch of social media hiring is, and what we believe and is our social media hiring philosophy, is that people who come in through the social media channel, do they tend to stay longer? Number one, are they more engaged with the organization because they have made a very informed choice? So when we look at a comparison of channels, so when you look at social media versus employer referral versus your kind of consultants, etc., etc. And when you look at comparison between these channels, what we have seen with social media and with employer referral is that some of these the time to stay with the organization has been a little longer. So we've seen that one different trend. Now, when we look back at the data and say why is this trend different people we've hired from these two channels, to me, I think the personal kind of conviction I have is that through this channel, people have been able to understand more about the organization. So if they are able to see who else works there, they do their own reference check. They are able to kind of engage with the organization a little more, understand a little more about the organization, maybe chat with a few senior people. So I think while of course you look at your time to hire and cost to hire and all of that, but in the long run, what we have seen is candidates through this channel tend to stay a little longer than others, and that's what helped us build the business case as well. Yeah. Akanksha, sorry, I'm not able to hear you. Hello?
Hello, is it better?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Great. So I'm saying that we have Sarang with us on the call. So I'm trying to have all the technology mode used to have him in this Twangout. So I think to continue on this bit, we'll ask Sarang to, Sarang, I think just Deepa had shared the how they use measure the success metrics within recruitment for this. So do you have anything personal experience in terms of, because obviously this is one of the area of your expertise. So how can you track, and measure success metrics for recruitment?
Okay. First of all, I'm really sorry, everyone. I hope you're able to hear me with some of those bad days. But yeah, in terms of tracking, I think in terms of what is effective or so social, as I mentioned, in terms of those three aspects, I think a lot of time we fall into the trap of hiring, measuring social media effectiveness only in terms of number of hires. I think it's still early days. We're still not talking about the social media is going to replace job portals or any of stuff like that. So we really need to look at the areas that social is making effective. So one is branding. Are we tracking the effectiveness of branding? So you can do that in various ways. Surveys, there are external agencies like Universum who do that. You would be able to understand your branding scores through various other channels, and whether social media has helped you to get that branding score up. Also, very simple things like your careers page. Your careers page is kind of a primer face of the recruitment team into the external channel. So have you got more candidates through careers page? Because if someone want to apply to your company, obviously first thing they will go to the careers page. So have the hits been added? Have there been compared to what you have when you are not using social? So that's one branding part of. Second is engagement. So again, yes, you can do a number of likes, number of comments. What percentage of people are engaged with you on social? Is it going up? Is it going down? There are the third-party management tools like Hootsuite, who should be able to give you those reports very easily. So again, that's your engagement scores. But again, still at the end of the day, by saying everything, you really look at what's the effectiveness of social media for hiring purposes. So what kind of candidates are you getting? The niche skills, so let's look at one aspect like niche skills, which you have not been able to probably hire in past 2 years, 3 years, is social media helping you to do that. It's not just about, are you hiring 20, 30, 40% of candidates through social media, but it's about, is social media able to help you to find those critical requirements, those niche requirements. One, the number of candidates who are applying through social media have that increased. That means now you are able to reach to a larger talent pool vis-a-vis what you were reaching through job portals. So again, has that number increased? Quality of hire. Again, every company has a different mechanism. It's a ongoing debate. In the course of things, are you able to find candidates which are staying with you longer or have a higher performance? Again, that's a measurement that you need to do in the long term, not in the short term. So these are some of the metrics that you can definitely look at.
Will Sarang be able to hear me if I speak, Akansha? Yeah? Okay. All right. So Sarang, we've had a lot of very interesting comments and questions on Twitter. So couple of things that I want to kind of pose to you are some interesting questions. Just give me a second, I'm trying to pull that out. But there was one comment kind of coming up frequently was that in terms of competencies for a social media recruiter, patience is very important. And I thought that was a brilliant comment that came up. Do you agree with it? Do you believe that patience is an important competency? What are your thoughts?
I totally agree. Kudos to the guy who talked about it. I think one thing that I definitely tell to everyone is social media is not a fad. It's not something that you're gonna get results in 2 or 3 months. In fact, when people talk about, yes, I want to start social media hiring, but I need ROI in first 6 months or 8 months. That really means that you're really not thinking through. You're not really thinking long term. So as a HR manager, recruitment manager, or even as a recruiter, you really need to build in and invest into your own network. And I think that's the point that a lot of recruiters miss out. So it's a database, and I'm sending mass mailers and I'm sending job postings to that, and everyone will go to apply. It's not really like that. If you're a recruiter for infrastructure technologies, are you building a follower? Are you building community around that? Are you taking efforts to create influence? Are you able to build your brand to specific those communities? And that only happens over the period of time. That only happens if your followers are able to see value in what you are saying and they're able to relate to that. So you have to look at long term, you have to have patience, you have to have a belief, you have to have trust, and only those companies who are able to invest, it's an investment, that it's not an expense, to put it very simply. It's an investment into future. This is a way how companies are going to recruit, this is a way how candidates are going to engage. If you don't do investment right now, things won't fall into your place when the transformation happens after 3 or 4 years or 5 years. So you have to have patience and you have to have a long-term approach. In fact, a very famous quote on social which applies to everyone, whether it's a business, marketing, or recruitment, it's not really choice whether you do social, it's how well you do it. It's not really question that whether you have to do it or not, but you have to do it well. You have to do it in the long term. And if you don't have, I don't recommend you go for social, because when you go for social, it has to continue for eternity. You cannot start the page tomorrow and stop it the day after because you don't get ROI out of it. The ROI concept has to be looked at differently and not just in terms of number of hires that you make. So again, that's where I was talking about those 3 pillars and how you measure it.
Absolutely. So I think it's been a lot of traffic on Twitter about this. We've definitely picked a topic that people are very, very passionate about, Sarang, and the kind of interesting comments you're getting on Twitter is very intriguing indeed. So I think we're kind of at the end of our time, aren't we, Akanksha?
You want to take a last question, Deepa?
Sure. So I think one question that's kind of coming on Twitter, Sarang, is about this. Do you see any difference in the candidate in terms of does he or she stay longer? Is the quality better? Have you been able to do any analysis around that? And what are your thoughts? Akanksha, I can't hear you.
I was just repeating the question to Sarang. So I was just telling him that
Okay.
the question is that social media hiring to employees stay longer or it will have a higher engagement level. So that's the question. Over to you, Sarang.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so there are two things that social media will give you, higher quality results. Yes and no. Yes, because you will be able to reach out to the talent pool that you probably are not able to reach prior to social media. So yes, but I think it also depends on how well you engage them, how well you treat them. Also, let's just try and understand. Social media is going to give you a true picture of what your company is, and it's not going to change the face of the company. You're not going to change the processes internally. So even if you're going to get good guys through talent acquisition, it's also important whether the brand promise, and engagement that you have done previous to hiring him, are you able to keep that even after post hiring, and are they then able to stay longer with you? So it's a talent acquisition, talent management, then will have to come and work together to make sure that brand promise is actually delivered, and that's only where you will be able to see better retention rates, better performance of or better quality candidates which are staying back, and probably creating more quality candidates internally. So while it's it's a bit of tricky question, there is no straightforward answer. But yes, you can hire people, but whether they stay with you or not is something that you have to look longer term and work with probably talent management as well.
Yeah, so true. I mean, it's early days in social media hiring. I think we're just riding the curve, Sarang and Akanksha. I think, like a lot of other channels have seen their peak, I think social media is yet to see its peak. We're just in the beginning of this wave, and it's only going to get bigger. So we're excited to have started off early, and definitely a lot of organizations are picking up it as well. So this discussion and this Twitter chat will definitely go on. There's going to be no end to it. It's a very interesting topic.
Thanks, Deepa. So, as at a time constraint, we're closing this exciting Twangout despite of all the technical problem which we had. So, thank you, listeners, for being part of the TA Leadership League Twangout. We are nearing to the end of this session, and as I mentioned in the starting of the session that we're gonna have a special prize for the most active listener, and I'm pleased to announce the name of the most active listener on Twitter is Yusuf Pathan. A hashtag is @KeysResourcing. Congratulations, Yusuf. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, your questions, and identifying the answers for the different aspects which we touch base on today's session. So a 1-year print plus digital subscription from People Matters will reach you very soon. Congratulations once again, Yusuf. So with this, we come to the end of this super exciting TA Twangout. We want to thank Sarang for being a fantastic speaker for our Twangout. A very big thank you, Sarang, to you.
Thanks, Akanksha. and thanks for bearing with me throughout the session. Thanks everyone.
It's always a pleasure to have you, Sarang. A big thank you to Deepa, who has been always a great co-host for these Twangouts. Thank you, Deepa.
Thank you, Akanksha. My pleasure as always.
So thank you too, and the final thanks to each one of you for being a fantastic audience today. We'll see you once again with yet another interesting topic in February, same time, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Look forward to the next League Twangout, and we look forward to welcome you once again. As we close our today's Twangout session, we wish you a great evening ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.